Hi everyone. Welcome to my space, to this bookish place. I'm so happy that you're able to be with me today as I share my thoughts about Grievers, what I call my book notes. So for those of you all who are here for the very first time, a big thank you, but I want to just kind of orient you a little bit as to how I talk about books. I don't rate books. I'm going to do a video about my philosophy with that, but I don't like to give books numbers or stars. So instead, what I do is I just like to share with you guys thoughts about the book, what I call for my book notes. This is just a journal that I keep with me as I read the book, and I write things down that like things that stick out to me, or things that I might struggle with, or connections that I might make, so on and so forth. So for me, I just think that that's just a more authentic way for me to share my thoughts about a book, and so hence the book notes. So today I'm going to be sharing my book notes on this little read that I just finished about a week ago, I think now, and this is Grievers by Adrienne Maree Brown, and it is actually the first book in a series of the Black Dawn series. And so she is the author. This is my first time reading her work. I really didn't even know about her at all. She got her start off in nonfiction and her outside of writing, and I know that she still considers herself this way. She is a community organizer, and she's deep into that, and she's written some books. Emerging Strategy, I think, is one of them that she's well known for. But then she stepped into fiction. And this is a novella of hers that's set in Detroit, and it was published in 2021. So this book came to me by way of my book club. You all, if you've been here with me before, you know that I joined a book club earlier this year. The focus of that book club is we read like sci-fi, fantasy, futurism, dark horror. I don't know if we've read any dark horror yet, but I think all of that's in that genre. And the reason why I wanted to join that book club is because your girl does not read those books. I have none of those books on my bookshelf. They are the genre that I walk past in bookstores. But I really wanted to just try to stretch myself and diversify my book shelves. So I decided the only way I'm going to do that is if I have an accountability partner or an accountability group. So I joined this book club, and I love it. I love that book club. So this was, I think, maybe June's book selection, it was July's book selection. Can't believe it's almost August. So this is what we have here. I just want to start by first saying, before I start, let me remind us all, because I'm about to jump right into it, that number one, this is a spoiler-free book notes chat. So no spoilers. Really, it's just to help see if this is something that you're interested in reading, to give thoughts, add some of my thoughts. If you have read it, so if you have read this book, or if you've read other of her works, please leave it in the comments below so we can chat about that. But this is a spoiler-free zone. The other reminder I want to say is that if you haven't done so already while I've been talking and kind of getting us settled into the space, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us grow. We are growing, you guys. I am celebrating each and every subscriber that I have. It is like pure joy for me. So thank you to each and every one of you that has already subscribed. And a big thanks to you for right now hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and also share this channel with your friends that love to talk about books, because that's our people. Okay, so moving on with that, I want to first start off with just the look of this book, because it is such a wonderful size. It's small. Let me see if I can. This is a regular size book right here. So in comparison, this is a little thing. You see that, just as comparison. But this book is, and it feels good. The cover feels good. So it's a book that I just like holding in my hands. because it just has this wonderful little feel to it. And also the spacing on the page is really nice. So it's not bunched up. It's very, I don't know if you all could see that, but yeah, you can get an idea of the spacing on the page. It's not like bunched up, and all that stuff matters to me, you guys. It really will turn me off from a book if it's just the typeset of it. I have a sensitivity to it. I don't know why. But this book is set in Detroit. And I was really kind of thinking about, like, how can I describe this book, but do it in a way that doesn't give anything away that should not be given away. And that is my goal. So this book is set in Detroit. As I said, it's the author classifies this as a novella. Not every place, if you look it up, will classify that, but I'm going off what the author says. And it's the first part in a trilogy series. And really, the book is Grievers, so you can guess that there's some grief going on in this book, and it is. It's short, it's compact. There's only like a little over 200 and I think 3 pages of this book, but it's so small. One could literally sit and just read this book in an afternoon. I wasn't able to do that because it's a heavy book, and so I found that and it kind of moves slowly too. It's not a fast-paced book. It's a slow, heavy book, and so for me, I found myself needing to like put it down, a little bit as I was reading it. The main character of this book, her name is Dune, and the book starts out with something very tragic happening to her. And I'm not going to get into that. Oh, I can, because it's on the back of the book. So the book starts out, so I'm not giving anything away here, with the main character who lives with her mother and her father's mother, so her paternal grandmother, who is mute. And they live in Detroit. And it starts off with her mother standing at the sink, and then she just freezes or empties, and she was moving, she was alive, and then the next moment she's not. And what we discover is that there is a mysterious illness syndrome that is in Detroit, and when it comes upon a person, and it's random in who it comes upon a person, at least, it's don't like have a rhyme or reason. It just takes over them and it empties them out, and eventually they die. And so it's discovered that Dune's mother is actually patient 0. And that's what's happening in the book. But the other thing that's really, I think, kind of that we are a witness to as readers is not just a witness to the what that is happening and the mysteriousness of it all, but really we are a witness to the grief that is just present. And not only Dune's grief, which takes up, I think, a lot of the emotional landscape of this book, of not just her mother, but just grieving her city and Detroit. We get to witness that, and I think that in those ways, that's why it's slow. Like, there is no necessary point that's being made, or there is no necessary thing that's being done. We literally get to just kind of witness this person deal with, and sometimes we might say not deal with, the circumstances that surround her and what's happening to this character. And so I think because of that, it's a really different type of book that I read. Just really being like sitting and being a witness to this, and not necessarily being able to do anything or being able to think through anything. With the way that I've written, I think it was very powerful in that way. Um, the other thing I think is that it's larger than, there's a lot of commentary. It's almost like this is a love letter, I think, to Detroit, a place I haven't been yet, actually. And it's also a grieving love letter to Detroit. And so you have, much like in Charles Dickens' novels, where London is a character of itself, the city. I think that what Adrienne Maree Brown did here is that the city of Detroit is a character. To me, it's just as much of a character as Dune is. And I found that to be really fascinating. And I think that it just broadens the reader's experience, because you're just totally kind of immersed in a different way. And I also think that the way that she writes this book, there's lots of like nooks and crannies and simple things, like everyday things that if you're walking down the street, you know, you might miss. Or if you live there and it's your neighborhood, it's so familiar to you that you don't necessarily pay attention to. And it's those kinds of details and the way that she presents them that I think that just really kind of has Detroit, the city that's been through so much, be able to kind of like stand on its own as a full character. And I really did appreciate that. In this book, you have also, we get to see different people's reactions, different groups of their reactions, reacting to what's happening all around them. And with outside of Dune, or in addition to Dune, I would say you have like the anarchists, you know, people who are responding in their ways, sometimes violent, sometimes, you know, pillaging. You have the organizers who are responding to grief in their ways. And you have people that are just like, I'm the overwhelmed, I'm out, you know, I'm leaving as well. And so even though we are centered on Dune and what's happening to her, we also are able to see what's happening and have a sense all around. And I think that that's because the author chose to write this story in third person close narration. And so we're able to have this omniscient, kind of distant view of what's happening. But the way in which she crafts language, which I'm such a fan of, she's very lyrical in her descriptions and the way she just strings together words, we're able to feel still what's happening. And I think that, like, part of my experience of reading this book was almost paralyzing, I would say, which is what happened to these people who were, you know, walking across the street, or, you know, standing at a kitchen sink, you know, cooking whatever. And then there's this paralyzation that happens. And I think for me as a reader, there was a part of me that was like, okay, I'm starting this book, and I was stuck. You know, you're just kind of stuck in this place. This book gets into, I think it asks a lot of questions about that's related to politics and the politics of living, which is closely tied to and consequential to the politics of dying and the questions that come up around that. So some questions I think that this book kind of raises forth is around grief is, who gets to grieve? Who gets to grieve? And what does collective grief look like? I think that those are kind of questions. And, you know, when I say who gets to grieve in ways that are complete, that are healthy, and definitely because the story is situated in Detroit, which is a Black city. It's interesting, the commentary, and not only interesting, but I think that it is very intentional, the commentary that the author is making through this story about grief and grieving Black bodies and what that looks like, and if we even know how to grieve with all of the trauma and paralyzing situations and death that just comes in waves, and the more importantly, the waves that it comes as far as the collective, from slavery to Jim Crow to Reconstruction to, assaults on Black bodies and policing and all of that, and all the stuff in between, all of these kind of things that I just laid out. What does it look like to grieve even the things that are not living, but also that die? So what does it look like to grieve when a person can't flourish, or when access is denied? I think all of those things she touches upon in this very short book. So this is one where when I read it, I had no anticipation. I didn't know what this story was about. I just was like, okay, this is next on the list. Let me get it. Let me read it. Let me start reading it. I knew that it was like, sci-fi, sitting in that space, but that was it. And then as I started reading it, I immediately fell in love with the language. A good language will just get me and hold me. And I was interested in like, okay, where's the story going? And how are we moving through this story? And there are places where I feel like that didn't work for me as much. And there were, so I don't know. I haven't read the other two parts to this, so I'm kind of hesitant to have an opinion on it. However, I think that my thinking is that this probably could have been accomplished in one book, like one story. So where it left off is not it didn't end in a way that inspired me to want to go and read the second one. I'm kind of debating if I will continue to do that, or make that decision. I think that this could have whole story could have been told in one story. That's my thinking now, but I haven't read the other two, so I had might change my mind about that. And because of that, I think that it because it was this, we want to break it up into three books, which I understand from like marketing and all that, and I get. I'm just questioning if that's what the story really demanded, if that was what was best for the story. That's kind of like what I'm sitting with. But I think because that choice was made, it impacted the pacing of this. And so I think that there is this, like, they're slow because it's intentionally slow. That's what the story is requiring it to be. And then there's this different type of slow where, okay, this is just dragging on. And I think that there are parts where this just dragged on, and that part kind of didn't work for me in that way. And I think that there are other things that I would have rather much would have liked to have been able to see in the world building a little bit more of maybe a relationship with her mother and her father. Her father passed years before, but both her mother and her father are activists, have a deep love for community and a deep love for Detroit, and that's the world that she has, been around and raised up. And her father, I don't know if he was a professional cartographer, but he had this big map that he was working on of Detroit. And so, yeah, but I don't know if he did that professionally. But I would have liked to have some more kind of sense of this, her relationship with the family. The grandmother is one of my favorite characters. She's mute. And I really thought that the author did a great job writing a mute character. And when the book is kind of organized with different character focus, even though it's all written in third person. But I think that her chapter, the chapter that was focused on the grandmother, I loved that one the most, and I loved her voice. And so I really would have liked to have had a little bit more of her, of her thinking and of things like that. I think it would have worked well for me. So all in all, I think that this was, a good read. I am debating again whether or not I'm going to go and do the second one. I think I probably will, just because I want to test out my theory to see if it still holds true. If I change my mind, oh yeah, it made perfect sense to break it up into 3, or yeah, no, it could have been in kind of one book. And I didn't end so like vested in Dune and like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen to her next? Or it didn't end that way for me, but that's how I wanted to feel at the end of it, and I didn't. And so yeah, kind of sad about that. But we'll see. I will probably, for the honor of the work, give it a go. Adrienne Maree Brown is a beautiful writer. As I said before, I really love her writing style. I think that this is an important book. I also think it's timely. It's speaking a lot to the times that we're living in. And I also think that it's giving us readers a different kind of perspective, even with COVID, in the sense of grieving. And that's one of the things that made me feel about, like, have we collectively grieved with what happened in COVID, and what happened to us as COVID, or were we just kind of like moving through it. So yeah, so lots of good things that it made me think about. It is a heavy read for sure. So if you're wanting something, I normally don't read things this heavy in the summertime, but again, it was a book club choice, so I did. But in the summertime, I normally like a little light. This would make a great fall book to me, a great fall book read. So yeah, I think you should give it a read. If anything that I said piques your interest, if you know Detroit, love Detroit, but Detroit can be any city, because cities and spaces change, and it makes you think about what's happening, and like, or made me think about what happened and what's happening in my own city, as far as like change and gentrification and displacement, and things that were, established parts of the community, and things that and now it's not, and the people who have come and the people who are not here. Like, I think it gives you all of those things to kind of think about and consider. So yeah, with that being said, I think that, like, that's all I got to say about this little book. It packs a punch. And I would be interested to hear your thoughts, especially about the dog. That's all I'm going to say. Read it. Let me know your thoughts about the dog. If you know, you know. If you have read it, let me know your thoughts about the dog, because I have stuff to say, but I'm not going to get into that. You can find this book, I think, everywhere. But definitely pick up a copy of it in a place that you like to support books, be it your favorite indie store, or Barnes & Noble, or a library, wherever you like to shop for books. Go do that. Treat yourself. Until I see you again, stay kind to yourself, and always have something around that you can read. Like, don't leave the house without a book. Like, just don't do it. Don't do it. And again, thank you so much for liking and subscribing. So hit that bell button. And until next time, stay reading. Bye.